Watching Business at 9 and I'm Nivedna Prabhu. Let's begin with our top focus tonight. India has welcomed the US-brokered peace deal between Israel and Hamas that would facilitate the return of those held hostage in Gaza and a phased withdrawal of Israeli troops from the land. Now, Trump and Netanyahu confirmed the development earlier this morning, aiming to end the war that has kept the Middle East, remember, on the boil since 2023. Now, this reflects the strong leadership of Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu. Prime Minister Modi said this morning, hoping that the agreement would pave the way for lasting peace in the war-torn Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, let's also put into focus tonight that Afghanistan's UN-sanctioned foreign minister has landed in India for a week-long visit. That is, Amir Muttaqi's trip made possible after the UN Security Council granted him that travel waiver. Now, remember, in the larger context, this is the first visit by a top Taliban leader to India since they returned to power in 2021 following the withdrawal of the US-led forces. So, what do these two events symbolize? Well, to answer that and to decode that further, in fact, let me take that across to my special guest this evening. And, of course, we here at ET Now will be continuing to put in focus as to all these shake-ups that we're looking at globally tonight. Kabir Taneja, Deputy Director, Strategic Studies and Middle East Fellow, ORF, joining us on the show. Also joining us is Swati Sinha, Geopolitical Analyst at Ananta Center. Good evening to the both of you. Thank you very much for taking the time out. Mr. Taneja, let me come to you. Given what we're looking at, and more importantly, all that we've also seen before, the big global shake-up at the moment, we first want to get both your reactions as to how you're looking at it. But, Mr. Taneja, let me come to you first.
Right. So, yeah, both these events actually showcase that the global international order is quite in churn at this point of time. But the good news about the crisis in the Middle East is that we have some sort of movement on the release of hostages. The Israeli hostages have been under Hamas captivity since October 2023. And now this deal that we are hearing about is at least seems to be mobilizing along the lines of the hostage release from the Hamas side. So about 20-25 people will be released. And in exchange, of course, around 2,000 Palestinians in Israeli prisons are expected to be released. But, the modalities of this are being worked out. Some reports are saying that the release will happen by Sunday or Monday. But we'll have to wait and watch. That's a lot of time in international relations where it stands right now for things to go wrong also. But it's good to see that there is some sort of clarity and a deal has been sort of struck as far as that particular crisis is concerned. And very quickly on the Taliban side, yes, the Foreign Minister Amir Muttaqi is in Delhi. This has been about 2 years in the making. It's a very delicate diplomatic dance that India is playing because, of course, for a long period of time, India also funded anti-Taliban movements inside Afghanistan. But Taliban is a reality at this point of time in Afghanistan. A lot of countries have engaged with them. We have also engaged with them. Minister Jaishankar has had a phone call with Interim Minister Muttaqi some time ago. And the Taliban is a reality, and unfortunately or fortunately, Delhi has to deal with it. But just to conclude, this meeting was always on the cards, but has been sort of fast forwarded due to Operation Sindoor and the fact that the Taliban and Pakistan relations are not great at this point of time.
Right. In fact, Mr. Taneja, you make very fair points. And all in all, of course, you've looked at both these particular significant developments. And of course, the world will also not be the same tonight, given everything that is unfolding with this. But Ms. Sinha, let me come to you as well. The way that you're looking at this, and more importantly, like I said, in the backdrop of how we've seen this pan out.
Let me just begin by saying first that it is a significant visit between New Delhi and Kabul, given how things have panned out post 15th August 21. So, India definitely is going to be very cautious about it, considering the relationship is evolving at the moment between both the countries. Since it is just the first visit by the Taliban leader since its, group's return to power, it signals a gradual thaw in India's engagement approach, which was driven again by realism rather than recognition. For long, India has maintained a very principled stance of non-recognition of the Taliban regime, citing concerns over human rights, terrorism, and the lack of an inclusive political framework in Afghanistan. However, at this point, by allowing Muttaqi to visit under a UN travel waiver, New Delhi is definitely acknowledging the geopolitical necessity of the dialogue. So what we can see is that, dialogue cannot be taken down or taken off from the table. So it's something that they are exploring at this very moment. Strategically, the visit also coincides with a very broader regional shifts. India's participation in platforms like the Moscow format. It has underscored its alignment with the regional consensus, that has opposed foreign troop presence while pressing for counter-terrorism, guarantees from the Taliban. So for Taliban, the visit offers a diplomatic breakthrough. For India, it's a symbolic convergence, of its pragmatic approach.
Okay, fair point, given how we're looking at that evolving situation as well. But I'll come back to you, Ms. Sinha. But Mr. Taneja, let me come to you. Just a couple of minutes ago, in fact, Prime Minister Modi also took to social media platform X, going on to state, and I'm quoting him, that spoke to my friend President Trump and congratulated him on the success of historic Gaza peace plan and also reviewed the good progress. Of course, he's talking about the trade negotiations as well. But the important point over here, given what the Prime Minister has said, and more importantly, tonight when we're looking at these two historic developments that are unfolding and the likelihood for that West Asia turmoil to be ending and India will welcoming this, how do we read into that statement and what do these moves mean for India's strategic and regional positioning as well, Mr. Taneja?
Right. Okay. So, as you just read out Prime Minister Modi's tweet congratulating President Trump on what has happened with the Gaza deal, I think it's a fair assessment. I think that what has been achieved as far as hostage situation is concerned is commendable. I think President Donald Trump has been pushing for this for a long period of time, and ultimately, I think he did turn the keys on Prime Minister Netanyahu as well. Yes, we are seeing sort of a lot of congratulations for Prime Minister Netanyahu for agreeing to this, but for a long period of time he also pushed back against a similar arrangement. I think he did not want to be an Israeli Prime Minister known to have been pushed to cut a deal with Hamas and release 2,000 prisoners in exchange of these hostages. His intended aim was a complete destruction and elimination of Hamas to the point where Hamas is not holding control in Gaza. I think those aims have not been achieved. So we will have to see long term whether this is a regional deal or whether it is an actual sort of long-term deal between the two warring parties, or it just stops at the hostage situation and hostage release. As far as from the Indian side is concerned, I think the reason why we are looking at Prime Minister Modi's tweet towards President Trump is because, of course, India and the US are in a sort of a staring down competition against each other over tariffs, over trade. This is not something India was expecting to be handling with the US this year. It was not on our bingo cards, but we have to deal with this at this point of time. And of course, Prime Minister Modi has tried to cultivate a personalized relationship with President Trump. And he's trying to utilize that to the best of his abilities to try and reach out to him on these matters and congratulate him so that he feels a bit more at peace in our bilateral. So it's all national interest based. These tweets are coming because India wants a thaw with the Trump administration and is hoping that such overtures on big diplomatic wins that President Trump has created for himself will help re-engage Washington DC at this point of time.
Mr. Taneja, as you pointed out, just a quick follow-up question. Is the balancing act today is what is required in the geopolitical order playbook that we look at?
I mean, to be fair, sure, it is required. but India has been playing the balancing act for a long period of time, whether it was non-alignment earlier or strategic autonomy now, multipolarity and multi-alignment. It's all a balancing act. And it's not just about what India's position on the geopolitics front is. India has geographical necessities to balance things out. It cannot get up and move away from our issues with China and Pakistan. Those are realities we have to deal with. And sometimes those realities we have to deal with within institutions such as the SCO. So we have to be part of the SCO, or BRICS. So we have to be part of the BRICS. And of course, India is also aligning itself to make sure that if there is a reorientation of the global order in the coming years, India is not a mere spectator, but is one of the countries that develops and molds what kind of international order will prevail in the coming decades. So from that front and from that point of view, whether you want to see it as realignment or whether you want to see it as India's own positions trying to take more prevalence rather than aligning with other countries, whether it's Western or otherwise, it's about India's interest and how India wants to shape the future of the international order in the years to come, and not just sit on the sidelines as it has over the past many decades due to economic reasons mostly.
Right. And that, of course, has changed. It's a different story that we're looking at. In fact, fair enough. Let me take that point across to Ms. Sinha. Ms. Sinha, given what we heard Mr. Taneja say, and more importantly, while you read into the kind of situation with the way India is looking at it with these twin developments as well, is it reflecting a shift in India's multi-vector foreign policy strategy as well?
Absolutely. Given how situations are panning geopolitically, it really reflects how India would like to, make its mark by really engaging very positively in Asia and, globally. So that's my comment on this particular section. If I have to particularly point out on Muttaqi's visit, as I already mentioned, it really reflects India's pragmatic approach, and again, like a very strategic balancing of this very bit.
All right, Mr. Taneja, coming back to you, given what, of course, we heard Ms. Sinha say, but in the larger context of what we're looking at here, Mr. Taneja, India does not officially, of course, recognize the Taliban, yet we're looking at this particular, meeting that did happen. But how, in a sense, is New Delhi balancing principle with pragmatism in this high-stakes engagement as well?
Look, Nivedana, it's and that's a fair assessment, right? India is doing a very sort of delicate balance between realities that have been presented to its national security issues and the fact that it has been in previous times completely against the Taliban, and it's not easy. I mean, Interim Minister Muttaqi was part of the original Taliban government as an administrator when IC 814 happened. And now he's the foreign minister, and we have to deal with what has come through. And similar thing, the interior minister of Afghanistan right now is Sirajuddin Haqqani. Haqqanis have previously or have been blamed at least for the Indian embassy bombing in Kabul. So this is not an easy diplomatic dance to play out for India as well. But India, I think, is being absolutely correct in what they're doing right now in hosting Muttaqi in Delhi, because it is a reality that you cannot change, and there is no one else that is going to be changing that anytime soon. So engagement has to be the only issue. Afghanistan is a very important country in the region. It is a neighboring country. It is very critical for our personal, of course, national security, but also our access to Central Asia, our relationship with Iran, and so on and so forth. But also, most importantly, on how we deal with Pakistan. The Taliban was always a client of sort of the ISI, but today we see there are fundamental and institutional odds between the two, and that is something that India would like to exploit to make sure that Pakistan's own interests in Afghanistan and with the Taliban are minimized, and there are some of our interests at least find weight and presence in Kabul. The fact that we have a technical office in Kabul shows that, the expectation for the Pakistanis was that the Indians will leave Afghanistan once the Taliban take over, which has not really worked out. So from a strategic point of view, I think this is something that should have happened some time ago as far as hosting the Afghan foreign minister is concerned. But it's never too late. So this engagement was sort of expected a while back. But the fact that it is happening now is actually a good thing.
All right, Mr. Taneja. On that note, I want to thank you as well as Ms. Sinha for taking the time out and decoding this for us in your own perspective. But for the moment, we leave the conversation at that here on Business at 9. Having said that, we're slipping in a quick break here. Stay with us. We're going to be right back with lots more on the other side. Don't go anywhere.
Co-presented by Seat Cross Drive, grip you can trust.